What's so funny? Lessons from Canada's Leacock Medal for Humour Writing. Lesson number 14. The Power of Simple Sentences and Plain Talk. Hi, I'm Dick Bourgeois Doyle, and this is a review of the 1961 Leacock Medal winner, Mice in the Beer by Norman Ward. If my Mariposa Mayor mentor had one wish for me, it would be a better appreciation of short sentences, active verbs, and simple prose. And he'd probably give me a boot in the butt for that pretentious alliteration, Mariposa Mayor mentor, that started this review. I still struggle to recognize that simple is not only clearer, but also livelier. And I blame my failings on being a bureaucrat and a scholar wannabe, having been overexposed to the same influences that plagued the 1961 Leacock Medal winner, Professor Norman Ward. Historian Jack Granenstein once said that Ward's writing was as dry as the prairie soil of the Dust Bowl years, and that his prose sits on the page like so many cow flaps in a farmer's field. But Granenstein was, however, directing those comments at the wordiness of Ward's scholarly work, not at his humor writing. In humor, it was different. Ward spent over 4 decades as a professor at the University of Saskatchewan, where he sharpened his opinions, but evidently felt restrained. The serious political scientist saw humor writing as a sandbox, a place to play, to be creative, and to express thoughts without worrying about the facts or the professional implications. Ward, whose book, Mice in the Beer, won the medal, Leacock Medal, in 1961, could make his reviewers laugh until they cried, with his humorous work and his mastery of what was labeled the gentle art of satire. His writing seems mild on the surface, but it hides prickliness below the veneer. Early in the book, Mice in the Beer, Ward covers himself by stating for the record that this book is, quote, fiction, in the sense that the events and conversations chronicled here did not happen as recorded. Maybe he felt it was necessary to make that clear because much of his book mocks the university world. In his opening piece, it's called A Meeting of Minds, Ward explains to a passing workman that musing over an academic article with his eyes closed while sitting under a tree is considered work for a university professor. Says the man. When I write articles, my wife calls it loafing. But he commends Ward as well. He says, for a fellow who does nothing else but read books, you seem to know a lot. Gentle but making a point. This style of humor flows out of the low-key prairie voice that Ward says adorns conversation with homely asides and earthly aphorisms, is expressed in simple declarative sentences, and enlivened only by references to farm concerns like bloat, heaves, and various other moraines that disturb our animal friends from time to time. The prairie perspective is not easily impressed, and it looks at the banking belts of Toronto and Montreal and my own hometown of Ottawa with some skepticism. Ward proposes, for example, that the winners of federal elections should stay home in Saskatchewan because the losers, being demonstrably less smart than their victorious opponents, could probably be allowed to take their places in Ottawa without damage to the public good. Ward says the national capital is overrun by Ottawa Terriers, a reference not to a special breed of dog, but a cynical frame of mind. And he links it to alcohol. Half the business and political history of this country could be told in terms of its alcoholic content, says a politician in this book. And with this, I squirmed and assumed that Ward would suggest that the mice here in Ottawa were the culprits, drinking up the nation's beer. But again, he avoids naming a specific target when telling the story behind the book's title. A bottle collector explains that mice crawl into empties, attracted by the malty smell. They lick up the drops, spin around, and expire. Ward loves the intoxicated mouse story because anything that can discredit animals, he says, should be widely publicized so as to make man seem a little better by comparison. He thinks humans need all the help they can get. Not only politicians, Ottawa bureaucrats, and Eastern bankers, but also bird watchers and teachers, pig farmers and cowboys, students and cemetery salesmen, and, persistently, academics, people like Norman Ward himself. By the end you realize that we're all the mice in the beer, Canadians. We scurry around, lap up a few drops of delight, act silly, and die. Not a particularly cheery thought, but if we can find enough drops in life, we can, like the mouse in the bottle, leave this world with a face wreathed in smiles, ears at a rakish angle, and happy. Norman Ward, the sober academic, evidently found his droplets in simple language, plain talk, and the art of writing gentle satire. So I think of him and drunken mice every time I try to edit my own writing. Now here's a writing exercise based on mice in the beer. In plain language and simple declarative sentences, write a paragraph describing a university professor's research on ways to insert dead mice into beer bottles.